It's one of the most common issues affecting Canadians today, yet continues to be one of the least talked about, and one with the most stigma attached. According to recent stats from the Canadian Mental Health Association, more than 1 out of every 5 Canadians will personally experience a mental illness during the course of their lifetime. And nearly all of us will experience a mental health issue indirectly through either a family member, a friend, or a colleague. Paulette Fournier-Jones teaches art at École Saint-Joachim in La Broquerie. In a recent story, we told you of her efforts to raise awareness for issues surrounding mental health through the Out of the Blue campaign. That was a campaign spearheaded by Southern Health-Saute Sud. What you may not know is her personal motivation for becoming so involved in this venture. Paulette grew up in La Broquerie. Her experience with mental health issues began at a very young age. Unbeknownst to her and her 7 siblings, her mother was waging a secret battle with schizophrenia.
I learned that my mom had schizophrenia. I think I was like over 20. I was in university, and that's when I found out that we could actually put a tag on what she had, And by that time, I wasn't very empathetic towards her situation because of all the things that happened while I was growing with her, like weird things, that were happening, and I'd find my mom weird, and already when you're a teenager, you find your parents weird. So when things aren't really normal, then that's even worse, right? And let's say that when I was a bit mad when I was, in my 20s about that, and mad because if I would have known, maybe it would have been better for me, or for her, because I felt guilty about the way I had treated her, and all these emotions came back like a lot when I hit my 40s there. That was big time, that I had regrets about stuff about my mom, because the more I researched, the more I understood, and then the more I understood, the more I didn't like my mother, and then the more I loved my mother, and it's like a roller coaster, and so all that came into play, and then what happened to me was then I ended up having a very bad depression when about 10 years ago.
Although Paulette began dealing with issues of depression well into adulthood, she suspects that the catalyst for that depression actually had deep roots in her past.
Now that I look back, I think that I had mental health problems. I have a funny feeling starting in my teenage years, but then it really exploded, as one would say, when I hit 40, the whole 40 thing. Because like I said, looking back, the way I acted when I was a teenager, the way stuff that happened in my family, there was no support here at our school. Like, there's things that happened and the next day you were going to school, and I don't even know if there were counselors when I was a kid,
Paulette finally found the courage to talk about her situation, and through a combination of therapy, medication, and changes in diet and exercise, she finally found peace in her life after a very lengthy struggle. That decision, though, to talk about what she was going through, to admit that she needed help, was not an easy one. Paulette says there was a lot of fear and hesitation surrounding that decision. What was she most afraid of?
The stigma, that people would turn away from me, would not, that I'd discover who my friends were, type of thing, I was scared that people, that's the biggest thing, eh? If you start talking, it's funny how people react. When you start talking about that, about mental health problems, whatever, or your personal experience, or someone or whatever, or start putting up posters, you've got people who will not talk about it, and those who will. And it's not because, I think it scares people. It scares people because maybe they've had a problem, or they know of someone, or what if it happens to me? Because it can happen to anybody. Like, it doesn't matter where you come from or whatever.
Paulette has made education and advocating for mental health awareness a priority in life. In her role as an educator, she sees firsthand the effects that stress, anxiety, and depression are having on her students at an increasingly younger age. She stresses the importance to them that they should never be ashamed or afraid to come forward and ask for help if they are dealing with something that they simply cannot tackle on their own.
I want them to know that if they do feel really down, or if they do recognize there's something happening to me that just isn't right, maybe I should go talk to somebody about it. You know, to be able to talk to someone about it. Because I wasn't able to talk to anybody about it. No one. No one. So, not even in my family. So, I hope the kids have that gift or knowledge that they know that they can. And I know still nowadays, even with all the promotion of the awareness and all that, you know, of mental health, that you still get the kids that don't talk. You still get the kids that do not talk. But I hope that the percentage of the kids that do talk is higher than it used to be.
Alana Hall is responsible for mental health promotion through Southern Health-Saute Sud. Even though it seems as if people are more and more willing to have the conversation, so to speak, there are still a lot of myths surrounding people's perceptions when it comes to issues of mental health.
I think the biggest misconception is that this is something that is a private matter that needs to be kept secret, that needs to be dealt with behind closed doors, and that this is something that is going to be a lifelong struggle for individuals, that there isn't recovery or that there isn't treatment from that. And both of those misconceptions couldn't be further from the truth. There shouldn't be any shame in mental health or having a mental illness, and there are treatments that are readily available.
Hall stresses the importance of keeping an open dialogue with somebody who may be struggling. She admits that people are afraid of being judged or isolated or excluded as a result of disclosing that they may be dealing with depression or some sort of related issue. And even though the discussion is happening more readily, there is still a lot to be done in terms of education and understanding of mental illness. Hall says it's human nature to be afraid of what we don't know or understand. And it's more important than ever to get rid of the stigma and negative stereotypes that still exist. She also stresses that if you or somebody you know is dealing with a mental health issue, there are a lot of resources available right here in the Southeast.
So in this region, we do have a number of resources available, especially considering that we are a rural region. There is the crisis response line. It's a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week crisis response service. No problem is too big or too small.
To reach the 24-hour Southeast Crisis Response Service, call 1-888-617-7715.